Hi, my name is Kristen, and welcome to my channel where we discuss an experiential approach to manifestation, or as I like to call it, the law of reflection. In today's video, I want to talk about what it means to focus on yourself and how this helps you in experiencing your desired manifestation and how it looks in practice. It's actually surprisingly simple, but it's something that we hear quite a lot of in the manifestation community, but it can be a little bit vague as to what it actually means. When we say focus on yourself, it can be quite easy to interpret this to mean focusing on the illusion of the separate self, the person that you believe yourself to be, the character that you have confused yourself as the truth of your being. Now, in the self-development community, focusing on yourself would mean something like doing things to improve the self, such as waking up earlier or exercising or being more disciplined and changing your habits, for example. And this is also quite similar to what the community, the manifestation community, is teaching when it emphasizes self-concept. It is asking you to focus on improving the self and healing and fixing a self that is not even who you really are. And in turn, this can cause you to over identify with this false separate self and believe that it is this self that is manifesting something when in fact it is not. The self has absolutely no power on its own. And because of this, because we focus on improving the self, we end up overly identifying with it. And because of that, there is always something to heal. There will always be something to fix. It will just be a never-ending journey of self-improvement until we realize that we are not this self at all. And when we believe that we are this seemingly separate self or individualized self, and that we're on this journey of trying to improve our self concept so that we can experience the manifestations that we want, there will always be this kind of tension between the old, unwanted version of self and the new, desired version of self. And this is why it can feel so hard. And of course, I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm also not saying that it doesn't work, but it's not actually necessary. And when somebody reaches the non-dual understanding, the experiential understanding that they are God, not just the theoretical understanding of it, they would know anyway that there is actually no need to continue to perpetuate this sense of self, that you don't need to essentially keep battling against the self, resisting it by trying to improve it, because trying to improve the self is resisting it, it's not accepting it. And what happens when you improve the self is that essentially you just swap one ego box for another, one identification for another. But when we focus inwards, which is what focusing on yourself really is, we return back to the truth of who we really are. And the manifestation of self transforms rapidly on its own. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. The self transforms on its own when we understand our own divinity and we go forward in the flow of that and surrender and let go to whatever is happening around us, knowing that it is all malleable, it is all changeable anyway. It's all just a mirror that is reflecting the self. The self will change on its own. You don't actually have to manually do that. You don't have to keep over identifying with it and trying to fix it or improve it. And obviously, there is nothing wrong with changing your habits or changing your lifestyle, but in a spiritual context, that is not what focusing on yourself is referring to. So, when we talk about focusing on yourself, it's not about improving the self and continuing to identify with that, but to actually put your focus on the truth of who you really are, which is consciousness or the divine. And this is why I prefer to refer to focusing on yourself as turning inward or going within, as that's what it really is. And that way we are less likely to confuse it with this process of improving or healing or fixing the false self. Turning inward means becoming very present with your inner experience and understanding yourself as awareness first and foremost, the awareness that is observing all phenomena. Now, most of the time, our default way of being is to live from the outside in. Our focus is facing outwards rather than inwards. So, the majority of our experience, if not all of it, it comes from the meanings that we create based on our perception of the external world. Our experience of life becomes shaped by the judgments that we have about others, how they may or may not be doing what we want them to do, about how a circumstance is happening that we do or we don't like. And in response to that, the self we are embodying responds to that. And our thoughts and feelings reflect that level of identification. So then we have a conditional sense of happiness, a conditional sense of love, right? And the more that we are wrapped up in this false identity of self, even when we're trying to improve it, the more we are actually at the mercy of the world around us. And the more we participate in experiencing a reflection that we don't like, or a reflection that we only like some of the time. And what do I mean by this? Well, if someone does something that we want, we love them. If they don't, we withhold that love and we want to change that person. We might think that we are experiencing love, but we aren't, because love does not waver like that, not real love. Real love is not given and then taken back. Real love is completely unconditional, and we can only understand real love when our attention is focused inwards, when we go within. When our attention is focused outwards, we believe that love is somewhere on the outside, it's somewhere over there, it's outside of us, and that it is something that another person has to give to us. And this can cause us to strive to try and get it. We try to manifest it from that false level of self. And it causes us to resist the way that other people are showing up, because we believe that love is being taken away from us if we're seeing something that we don't like. So when our focus is outwards, we're not really coming from true love. Only when we focus inwards on the truth of who we truly are do we realize that we actually are love itself. And so that is what starts to reflect back. So this is one of the reasons why we need to go within, so that we are not so much grasping at what appears on the outside to fulfill us. And we reach that level of fulfillment within first by understanding the truth of who we are. And then we see the reflection back in the form of love, abundance, and happiness. In a similar way, if a circumstance appears that we enjoy, we're happy. If one appears that we don't, we're unhappy. And we think that we are experiencing happiness when things go our way, but we aren't, because true happiness does not waver like that. Just like love, true happiness is the undercurrent of all experience. It's the truth of who you really are. Love and happiness are the truth of who you really are as the divine. So when we are focused outwards, our emotional state becomes dependent on whatever is or is not happening, because we're focused outwards and we are so attached to outside things, because we are focused outwards instead of inwards. We're living from the outside in instead of the inside out. And when our focus is outwards, we're not coming from true happiness, but more of a conditional form of gratification that is actually coming from our attachment to the objects of our experience. And only when we focus inward do we notice that happiness is our true nature, and that nothing else can actually add or take away from that. When we turn inwards, We become less reactive to thoughts, emotions, and experiences because we have resumed our true identity as awareness, the observer. This helps you to detach from the objects of your experience, and when you do so, you will actually be in touch with your true nature as the divine, which is peace, love, and happiness. And instead of seeing through this lens of separation, you will understand yourself as oneness, that you are, in fact, everything. That anything that is reflected back is just a reflection of the false self. It isn't showing you who you are, it is showing you who you are not. You are the faceless, formless God that gives expression to all things. And this is not something we can know intellectually or try to get to in the mind. You cannot reach God in the mind. The experience of God is beyond thought. So we don't think our way into God. We experience ourselves as God or consciousness when we observe, when we come back to awareness. And when we are grounded in the present moment, we are anchored in this awareness, and that is exactly what going within means. And to do this, it's very, very simple. You can turn inwards or go within in the next few seconds, and I'm going to show you how to do it and just how easy it actually is. So, as you're watching this video, notice and acknowledge the present moment right now. And firstly, just become very familiar with what you're seeing on screen right now as you watch this video. Study the details of the video. You'll notice me speaking, the backdrop behind me, maybe the cactus in the corner. And just become very still and present with that. Observing any thoughts that arise, but just allow them to pass by like clouds. Now become aware of your surroundings beyond the screen, but without taking your eyes off the screen. And become aware of the room that you are in as you watch this video. And notice the sensations of the space around you. Is it large or expansive? Are you indoors or outdoors? Now notice what you can hear. The sound of my voice, but also any other sounds that may be going on in the background right now, wherever you are. And just notice how it feels to be present in this physical space. And does the room feel warm or cold? What does the air feel like? Maybe there's a breeze on your skin. Now notice your breath and slow it down. Take deeper breaths. Breathe into the body, breathing into the belly, not the chest. And just notice how that feels. And start to relax the body now. And drop your shoulders. Relax the jaw. And notice the sensations in the body as you breathe deeper. And just allow yourself to relax now. Notice any feelings or emotions that might be there. And just allowing them to be and accepting them for what they are. Noticing any thoughts or perceptions. And again, just allowing them to be there and accepting them for what they are. If you're struggling with this, you can close your eyes, but if you can, try to keep them open. as we go through life with our eyes open. It's good to train this as you're awake. And as you remain in awareness, just notice all that arises now, all at once. And this is the experience of God. And that is it. And it is so simple. It pervades all reality, yet it goes unnoticed when you recognize yourself as the observer, as the watcher behind the thought, behind the perception, behind the emotion. And it's always there, it's closer than breath, and it can be returned to as quickly as just breathing into the body and focusing inwards. So when you are focusing inwards, you are basically noticing, becoming aware, grounding yourself in the present moment. And when you continue to return to this over and over again, it will create a feeling of distance between who you truly are as the divine and the false self that sees itself as separate, the false self that is in reaction to everything, the false self that thinks it's its emotions or its thoughts, or even thinks that its thoughts and feelings are manifesting things, which they are not. And it's this false self that is perpetuating an endless story, a story that it has made from how it perceives things on the outside. And this practice is so simple that most people either forget to do it or they just see it as too simple to do anything. They get caught up in the self that thinks it needs to control everything, and they start to alter or change things, and that wants to try to mentally manifest, that wants to micromanage everything and manifest things here or manifest things away. But when you turn inwards, you're not mentally trying to alter reality. You are reality. You are it, all of it. And if you continue to do this, you will start to dwell in this place naturally. In, you'll be able to go for longer periods as awareness. I mean, you are always awareness anyway, but what I mean by that is you will be able to go longer periods recognizing and remembering that you are awareness, and you will understand yourself as God. So often people will do this and they will expect some kind of instant revelation. You have to keep doing it, you have to keep practicing it. Bring yourself back in when you feel yourself drawn to the outside, when you feel yourself reacting, when you feel yourself making perceptions and judgments about things that don't serve you. Bring your attention back within and focus inwards. And when you do that, then you can actually shift into the state of your desire. Hope that helps.